Good morning. Thank you for joining me for today's Facebook Live. My name is Tracy Held. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Melbourne in Australia. This is the card that we're going to be making today. I've got a blog hop coming up next week and it's one of those challenge blog hops, and the challenge for this hop is old meets new. So when we wanted a little bit of clarification on what that meant, Nancy Hutke, who's the person who set it, said, it's just a reminder that when we get new stuff, all we want to do is use the new stuff and get stuck in, and it's all new, 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 new. And we tend to forget about our old stuff. And, you know, some of that old stuff is still really good. And, hey, we can use it. So just use a couple of elements from your new things where you don't need to have everything in the catalogue, and use it with your old stuff. So let me show you the old stuff that I've used here, and then I'll show you I've only used one set of dies from the new stuff, which is pretty good, I think. So Nested Essentials, the Lifetime of Love stamp set, my exposed brick embossing folder, and I have to say that Nested Essentials and exposed brick does come to my hand fairly often, but I haven't used Lifetime of Love for a long time. And the new one that I'm using, and I'm not even showing you all the new dies, is the Peace on Earth dies, and I've only used 3 dies from that, which is the doves and the little sprig. Now I'm doing a class next week and somebody had asked me for wedding cards, so of course I had gone and designed the wedding card with all the new stuff. So I'll show you the new stuff, well, the card with the new stuff, and then we're going to make it using old stuff. So that was my card, and you can see everything on here was new, from the color, the embossing folder, the glimmer paper, the dies. The only thing that wasn't was that sentiment. But when I was making this card, I sort of went, hey, actually, in this Lifetime of Love, it's a really, really good wedding set, because all those sentiments are really nice for wedding cards. Okay, so we're going to put this one away. We're going to make this one, and because I decided to use one of the other sentiments, I'm actually going to change up the orientation, and I'm going to make it a landscape card instead of a portrait card. So let's just start with a little bit of inking. Now I've got my white, which I've put through that embossing folder, and I wanted a little bit of color to go with it, but I just felt that putting Pretty Peacock on was going to be too strong, so I'm using my Lost Lagoon, and we're just going to lightly ink up. So this is the embossed side, so I can feel those raised bits poking up. It's some of the embossing folders you can use both sides, but I'm just gently going over it because I want the ink to catch onto those raised bits. Alright, so I hope that you can see that it just adds that tiny little bit of color, but it just lifts it from being plain white. And before I put my inks away, I want to just stamp for my insert. Okay, we have to do that. And I've got this leaf die in that stamp set, which I thought works really nicely with that little leaf die cut. So, and this one, we're stamping landscape. Remember, always remember your orientation, because otherwise you're going to stamp your insert the wrong way. So just 3 stamps without re-inking, and that's me done for my insert. And I'm going to stick, goodness, it doesn't matter what I do, I always have to get a smudge somewhere. At least that's on the back this time, so that's all good. Alright, so we're going to stick that inside, And of course I would go and stamp some leaves on my envelope as well, because I like everything mitchy matchy. Right. Okay. Now I've gone and embossed my sentiment, and my Versamark pad is as old as, if you see the color of it, you might be shocked when you look at the new ones. You're thinking, how does this even work? But hey, it does. And of course my silver embossing powder has been around for ages. And this time, instead of just doing a little bit of ink around the edge, I'm going to stick it onto the bigger Stylish Shapes die. So this is the largest and the second largest of those rounded rectangle, not Stylish Shapes, Nested Essentials die. And we're looking for the always elusive dimensionals, but I managed to find them. So we're just going to stick that on with dimensional. So this is actually a really easy card, but I think it's fairly effective. Now, alright, so like I said, we're going landscape, so hope that stuck straight. Now, instead of using the glimmer paper, I used my silver foil sheets because I wanted to. Here's one where you have to be really careful, because glue on the glimmer paper tends to really make big smudgy marks. So this probably would have been good with adhesive sheets. So just go very, very gently with the glue when you're going to stick it. And we're just sticking it that it's going slightly behind and onto the front of the dove, so that it looks like it's holding the leaf in its beak. Get behind. There we go. Clever dove holding a leaf. Now we're going to stick this on. So all that I'm going to do is put a couple of dimensionals behind the wings. I don't want dimensionals on the body because that's going onto our sentiment, which has already been raised. I'm just going to put a mini behind that wing and a little bit of glue on the body here to hold it. There we go. And then my second dove, most of it is going to be fine. It's going to be sticking on, so I'm going to just put again another mini dimensional behind its tail, so that that's going to be raised. And we'll put some glue. Now, I'm not putting glue all the way onto the ends, just because I actually like it where the tips of the wings are floating and they're not stuck down, so it looks like it's got a bit of wind ruffling its feathers. Oops, but that one I want to stay down. And then, although that's pretty, I sort of felt that the glimmer paper does add extra sparkle, so I pulled out my old, and I have to say that I love the sparkle on these, Druzy adhesive black dots, and we're going to just stick a couple of dots on here for extra sparkle. Alright, so there we go, two different orientations. I quite like it with the extra pretty peacock behind, but then that does mean that you need to turn it, because, or rather use one of the smaller sentiments, because that sentiment won't fit onto the smaller die. Okay, so just remember that. If you have to, just buy your favorite of new stuff and put it together with your old stuff, which will still create a really effective card, which whoever you're giving it to won't know what's old and what's new, and will be absolutely delighted that you put in the effort to make them a card. So enjoy the rest of your week, or enjoy the week, not the rest of it, the rest of the weekend, and I will see you again next week. Bye for now.